Tom Moore, longtime Sixer beat writer. He's now the sports columnist for the Bucks County Courier-Times. He's been around the team for a long, long time, and certainly has some thoughts on what is happening here. And he also offers a couple of possibilities if they have to make some changes. And Tom, welcome aboard, man. How you been?
All right. How you guys doing?
Doing well. I mean, when I thought of people who have covered this team, I don't know that there's a guy around that's covered the team longer than you have. I can't imagine in all the bizarre things that have gone on this franchise, especially in the last 5 to 6 years, nothing could top this.
Right. I mean, yeah, this makes tanking for 4 years, and Charles Barkley saying he was misquoted in his biography, and Iverson supposedly pulling a gun on somebody in an apartment he was paying for. They all sort of have taken a back burner. The word I keep using is surreal. It just does. It seems like it's sort of not possible. And here we are. What is this, day 5 of the investigation? I guess it started on Thursday with that New York City law firm, and we don't know when anything's going to happen. It could be a couple of days. I mean, who knows at this point? Are there negotiations going on behind the scenes? Are they reaching out to potential successors? I mean, you really don't know. At this point, nothing would surprise me, put it that way.
If the Sixers, in fact, I mean, obviously, the report that came out a little while ago was at midweek. I mean, but the NBA Finals play on Wednesday. Do you think that the NBA would want them to make an announcement sometime around the game? You would think that today or tomorrow might make the most sense, but midweek would sound like you're talking more Wednesday, Thursday, right?
Yeah, that would. I mean, unless they literally are just waiting for this firm to finish up the all the details and its recommendation, etc. Logically, I mean, that was why last night I was almost sure, even if firms are working on the weekends, they weren't going to announce it at 6 o'clock last night with it, tip off at 8:10 of Game 2 of the finals. It just doesn't seem. I know they want it resolved as quick as possible, but they also want to, I think, probably get away from that being a distraction and a question and things that people. LeBron was asked about it before Game 2, with his comedic response, but. Yeah, you would think they want it done soon, and preferably not on a day where there's a game, because the way it's going, there might only be 2 more on Wednesday and Friday. So you would think they'd rather it not be announced or not come out on either of those days.
Now, Tom, your column, you said this might not end well for Bryan Colangelo. Do you see any scenarios where he makes it?
Well, if the firm can prove that somebody sabotaged an account, somebody did this information, a process person, a hinky person, not saying Sam has anything to do with this, but some of those people are pretty into it. If they could somehow prove that he had nothing to do with it, but still, where did they get all this information? Where did this seemingly inside information that very few people would know in terms of potential trades and injury issues and physicals with Jahlil Okafor and so on? It just seems like he had to have been involved, even if it was simply a case of saying things to your spouse, not expecting them to end up as public information. But even in that case, I don't know how he would still have a job, just given, I'd really like to hear what the players honestly think of him in light of everything that's going on now. And if the players are not confident in him or don't trust him, that is pretty damning in my opinion.
And Tom, doesn't having that info out there hurt Colangelo enough? Is it a fireable offense just that it's out there if he legitimately knew nothing of the person that was tweeting it, but it had to come from somewhere?
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. If it's his wife and it's a matter of a spouse saying something to to his spouse, not knowing or realizing that this would end up being public information, it's still I still don't know that you would be able to survive that, because even if it wasn't your intent, that's where the information came from. And there's so few people that would have known these details that came out. If it wasn't his wife, you would think it was probably somebody close to him, based on the details and the specifics and how much they defended, he or she defended Colangelo, from everything from the collars to the moves he made to Hinkie getting so much credit and Colangelo not getting the credit, things like that.
Tom Moore is a columnist, longtime Sixers beat writer as well, and this Colangelo story, which is bizarre, also has the next step is, okay, you got this investigation going on, Tom, and so many people have tweeted at me, and I'm sure you as well, that are wondering what's taking so long. Why haven't they made a decision? Do you think that the Sixers are right in doing due diligence, even if it is taking longer than some people feel comfortable with? In other words, is it wrecking some of their off-season planning?
Well, I mean, the time is of the essence for sure, Mike. I mean, there's never a good time, but you're 17 days away from a draft in which you have numbers 10, 26, and 4 second-rounders. I know that the scouting department has seen a lot of these guys, but they have had nobody in for public workouts. It's possible they had some people in for private workouts. And then 10 days after that is the start of free agency on July 1. So there's a lot going on in the next 4 weeks, or a little less than 4 weeks. So, yeah, I mean, it was a kind of, even with the disappointing loss to the Celtics, exceeding expectations, going from 28 to 52 wins, defeating the Heat in the first round, the emergence of Joel Embiid, Simmons, probably being the rookie of the year, the hope of getting LeBron James. I mean, is it possible that this could have an effect on that? No way to know at this point. Really, no possible way to know. But yeah, this is not. This has certainly been a black eye for the organization. Everybody's gone quiet, and I don't blame them. What are you going to say? I mean, I think you need to figure things out. You need to have all the information, and this firm needs to get it right and get everything, get all the information, make sure there's no hidden things here, or they don't miss anything. I realize that they must be thorough and complete. But yeah, as I said, this is assuming they work the weekends, which a lot of places do. This is day 5, and it is something where a lot of people, it seems to have united a lot of Sixers fans and even media members, that very few seem to think that Bryan Colangelo should continue with his job, given all the information that we know at this point.
All right, Tom, here's one for you. If he's fired, there's a buyout, or something happens that he is not here, given the time frame of where we are and what you just said, the draft, they have 6 picks in this draft, and free agency, is it more likely that they stay in-house, at least for this offseason, or that they quickly try to find someone from outside the organization?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I suggested in my column that maybe you make Mark Eversley, who is was Colangelo's right-hand man, and perhaps you make him the interim guy. So there is somebody there who has experience, who's worked for other teams, who's well-respected around the league, and then you conduct your interviews and so on, and maybe he ends up getting the job. But then that opens up a can of worms. Is he allowed to make trades? Is he allowed to, give a lot of input for the draft when you don't know when you're going to have somebody in place here? So that kind of makes it, he might be kind of have one hand tied behind his back. So it's a very difficult, situation in terms of what to do. And I don't know that they'd be far enough along that they could just hire somebody, that they would be ready to say, Mike Zarin's our guy, or David Griffin's our guy, or, Brandon Williams, who worked for the Sixers for a while and now is spent a year as a VP of basketball operations with the Sacramento Kings, is ready. So I don't know at this point. it's a very tough call all the way around. It's possible they're reaching out to people now to gauge interest or to let people know, or maybe they have priorities or they have people that they would like to interview. I mean, I found in my research that Mike Darren, who's the VP of basketball operations for the Celtics, Danny Ainge's right hand man, according to the Boston Herald, he turned down the job in 2013 before Sam Hinkie accepted it. I did not know that. I did not recall hearing that, but I found that online when I was researching Mike Zarin. And he's a salary cap guy, and he's a heavy analytics guy. So maybe he would fit the bill, although he's a Boston season ticket holder his whole life. So would he leave? I don't know.
Right. Tom Moore's with us, Harvard Law for Zarin in your article, and you also said that the University of Chicago, that analytics kind of guy. So, Tom, is there an outside candidate or a candidate outside the organization that you particularly like, that you think is over the top than the other names that are floating out there?
Yeah, I mean, to me, Zarin would be really intriguing for a number of reasons. I would think, that he would be, if not my first call, he would be pretty early on. As I said, Brandon Williams, worked here for 2 years before he left and got a promotion and was Vlade Divac's right-hand man. So he knows Brett Brown. He knows, how things work here. He has strong opinions. Eversley, is another guy. There's so many names, and you don't know. Would they want to go heavily at the analytics? Would they want to go with guys who have been who have experience, who could hit the ground running and already know what they want to do, kind of thing. David Griffin, obviously has a connection to LeBron. He left the Cavaliers about a year ago. Is that something? Someone that they would, I would think, would be worth a phone call. It also depends. Do you really want LeBron? And you would think that whoever is in charge, management, that's the other thing. Who would be in charge of this? Would it be Scott Harris? I mean, would it be Scott O'Neil, the Sixers CEO? I'm sure some of the management, some of the owners would be involved. I mean, there's a lot of questions and not a lot of time to answer these questions.
Right.
So you can't really take your time and sit back and, you have time off. You really need to move and get this done, get it right, but get it done in a very timely fashion.
Tom, do you think there's any way that Sam Hinkie is a candidate? I mean, it seems like Joshua Harris liked him enough to keep him around before he resigned. Is there a way that you can envision Hinkie coming back to the Sixers?
I don't think so, and I don't even know if Sam would necessarily, want to take the job per se. I know a lot of the process people, that's what they want, or one of his disciples or whatever to take the job. I just don't know with the time and everything that's going on either end. But would they want an analytics guy or somebody, a young, bright mind, like Sam? I don't know, but I would think that would be a long shot.
We're talking with Tom Moore, longtime Sixers beat writer, now a columnist for the Bucks County Courier. And, obviously this is a bizarre situation, but LeBron James, you mentioned him. Is there a possibility that this is what Colangelo could potentially be fighting for? To think that, look, I've made so many inroads with that camp that if you let me go, that could potentially be damaged. I mean, how much could LeBron James and that possibility kind of be hanging in the balance here?
I don't know. I would think, Mike, that really isn't a huge factor. I think it's going to come down to what it's determined that he knew, how involved he was in this, what they can prove or strongly suggest or circumstantial evidence about different things happening. I think it's going to come down to that more. And it's a trust issue, as I said. What do the Sixers players and potentially players around the league think? Because that's what it's going to come down to, getting other players to sign as free agents, whether LeBron would come here or not. How is he perceived or whatever with the around the league?
Tom, last year, Cleveland had no GM for a period of time around the draft. It kind of threw their offseason into chaos, and in that mess, it maybe lost them a chance to get Paul George. Is that something that weighs on the Sixers' minds, too, as again, the clock is ticking?
To get Paul George? Yeah, I don't see Pete. I don't see Paul George. I just think that's less likely. I think it's kind of LeBron or nothing this summer. They could try and trade with Kawhi, but I think that's going to be difficult too. Just to try to work, at least as of now, unless the market for him is not as good as the Spurs think. I think George is going to end up with the Lakers. I just don't think that's the right fit here or would work ideally here. So I really think that it's kind of probably LeBron or nothing. That's just my sense, and I could be wrong, but that's my take on it.
Tom, let me ask you this question then. With the way the league has gone, with LeBron, with Paul George, with these high-profile guys, how important is the GM? I mean, are they making a decision based on the GM, or are these guys playing where they want to play with the people they want to play with?
Right. I think for LeBron, he's so secure and he knows what he wants, and he's got a 13-year-old who's a heck of a basketball player. You know, where would be a good place for him to go and live for a year or two, however long it is. I think a guy like LeBron, it's less important. Perhaps other guys, younger guys, you know, guys who aren't as confident, comfortable, whatever, I think perhaps it's a bigger deal. So to me, I don't think for him it's as much of a factor, perhaps. I mean, obviously, if it's somebody he has a problem with or he has a history with, that's not a good thing. But I think in general, he's more about who he's playing with and what are the chances he can win a title. I think that's and how comfortable would his family be there is my take.
David Griffin this weekend on CBS Radio had mentioned that he thought the Sixers would have a leg up, and I would assume that's with or without Colangelo, because of the relationship of his agent with Ben Simmons' agent. So it would almost seem like people are saying, well, you got to get this in place to get LeBron. It almost seems like that might not even matter who is the person pitching LeBron. It's more what the agent directs him to. Or if LeBron says, look, I want to play in Philadelphia because I like Ben Simmons, I don't think it matters who's running the team.
Yeah, I mean, LeBron has been a mentor to Ben Simmons, and Rich Paul from Clutch Sports has represented LeBron for a while and now also represents Simmons. I think there's certainly a history there, and they have a mutual admiration society and really like each other. But I think also even if it's not a big factor, I think LeBron doesn't want to come into a situation where he, sees dysfunction and is not sure a direction, what a plan is, what they're trying to do, things like that. So I think, you want to have some continuity and some idea of what he'd be getting into, even if it isn't a huge factor, given how, confident and comfortable he is, and it's more about on the court.
Hey, Tom, he currently is the president of basketball operations and the GM. In the future, with all the chaos that's going on, do they need two separate guys to run those departments?
I mean, you can certainly argue that. You could potentially promote, Eversley, if you're going to keep him to one of those spots, to make him the GM and the president of basketball operations. I mean, Larry Brown was the VP of basketball operations, but he was Billy King's boss, and Billy King was the general manager. So, it's possible they could do something like that, that it could be separate if it's deemed that that's too much for one person, but with one person there's only one voice, so that is something that I think could be a possibility or a thought.
So much here at this stage of the game, with the delay here, with not hearing anything. Do you think that's better for Colangelo? I mean, is there a feeling now that, well, maybe he gets out of this, or is the delay an indication of they've got so much stuff they're filtering through and they're just trying to work some sort of buyout situation?
You know what? It's so with not knowing what's going on, like, it's so tough to say. I mean, people say, the longer it goes on, the better it is for Colangelo, but maybe it's just how thorough this firm is being. You don't know, or like you said, maybe they are negotiating or trying to work out details. Right. What a severance package could be, whether it's resigning, perhaps resigning to make it easier or better. That could be the case too. So, it's just so hard to tell without knowing the information. I've heard all different things, and at this point, you really just don't know.
Tom, real quick before we let you go, is this the biggest offseason in franchise history? One of the biggest? How do you qualify all the decisions that lie ahead for whoever it is in charge?
Yeah, this summer and next summer are really, really important because in 2020 you have to extend Ben Simmons and possibly Dario Saric. So your cap space that you can fill that cap space. They would need to trade Jared Bayless, who's set to make $8.6 million this year, and probably a first-round pick, protected first-round pick, to somebody for like a protected second-round pick that they'll never get back, to dump that money to get them to be able to fit LeBron's $35 million, if it is indeed LeBron's max contract, and then they could sign a max guy this summer. If it doesn't happen this summer, you could try to do guys on one-year deals like they did last year with Amir Johnson and obviously J.J. Redick, and then bringing in Bellinelli and Ilyasova. You could try to do guys on one-year deal and take a run at Klay Thompson or Kawhi Leonard, who would be a free agent in 2019 if he's not traded and doesn't agree to an extension with that team. So you really have a window of this summer and next summer where after that, you're going to be capped out. You're just going to be able to re-sign your own guys. So the idea is you get a superstar in here, and then you just keep re-signing guys, or you trade him for another guy, theoretically a superstar, or somebody else, a high-level player that you could bring in and then extend that guy. So it is a very important, this summer and next summer, almost like one, really. That they need to get a star either this summer or next summer, some combination.
Tom, the way that Colangelo was placed here was bizarre in itself. The irony would be here, if he was let go, would his father help the Sixers find a replacement for his son? That would be interesting. But my question really is, many people feel that he was placed here by the league and that there wasn't really a lot of vetting to hire him. Did he do a good job? I mean, when this guy with his resume and credentials, everybody felt, okay, Hinkie was what he was, and he was never going to get them over the top, and agents weren't going to talk to him. They got a basketball guy in here. Did he move the program in a direction that would say this guy was successful and it will hurt to lose him?
You talking about Bryan?
Yes.
Bryan. It's funny because they say about agents they want to talk to Hinkie, but I think Hinkie made trades with like 13 different teams. So if teams, if people didn't want to deal with him, he sure made. Now he took salaries off a lot of their hands for draft picks and used that cap space. I mean, I think he helped take him from kind of the threshold of being a really good team, and then took them maybe one step closer to where they exceeded expectations this year. But to make another step, they're going to need to add a real impact player. Ideally, a wing scorer, athletic wing scorer is what they really need. So I think he helped, but I think you have to realize they have Ben Simmons, they have Joel Embiid here because of Sam Hinkie.
Right.
So the two biggest pieces they have were from Hinkie, the 10-72 season, and the trade swap, the pick swap, allowed them to get Simmons, because that was actually the Kings ping pong ball that came up, and because of the Stauskas trade, they had the ability to do that. So that was Hinkie. So the combination of the two has been very good, and I think Bryan's done well and kind of been willing to add veterans and to kind of move things forward. But they are kind of almost at a crossroads here, as I said, this summer or next summer, where they really need to do it.
I find the irony in all this, Tom, is Hinkie was criticized essentially because they lost, and he held off the holding off of signing guys like Jared Bayless, and it could be Jared Bayless's contract is the one that holds up a lot of things here. You know what I mean? Like, the irony is, okay, Colangelo went out and got the guy that Hinkie would never go get, and now he's the guy you need to get rid of to be able to get the guy you really want.
Yeah, well, and the thing was there, I had no problem with Bayless, but I don't know why you had to give him a third year. It was front-loaded, so you paid him a lot the first 2 years, or even made the third year, like Gerald Henderson's, where it was like $1 million buyout or whatever. I don't know why you had to guarantee a third year. I don't know how many teams you were bidding against. And right. Jared Bayless is not a Brett Brown kind of player, and I think you kind of saw that as the year went along, and he he just didn't play in the last 3 months. He just never played, and he was healthy. That wrist and hand were fine. So it is interesting and could potentially somewhat ironic that you would have to make a move to do that. Potentially to get the guy you really want, you'd have to get rid of and use a pick, perhaps a first-round pick, to dump that salary.
Wow. Tom Moore, columnist for the Bucks County Courier-Times, longtime Sixers beat writer, who, of course, has his eye on the story just like everybody else. Tom, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.